there are still 9 states with millions of Americans that still have not issued stay-at-home orders. President Trump was asked about that this week. Here he is.
I leave it up to the governors. The governors know what they're doing. They've been doing a great job. I guess we're close to 90% anyway. And states that we're talking about are not in jeopardy. No, I would leave it to the governors.
But Dr. Adams, the coronavirus is not a state issue. It doesn't follow or respect state borders. Dr. Fauci says he believes that there should be a national stay-at-home order. Is he wrong?
Well, Chris, it's important to understand that most people across the country are doing the right thing. Over 90% of the country is staying at home, and a good proportion, more than average, are staying home even in those 9 states. But the last time you and I talked, it was about opioids. People don't know, but I've run a state Department of Health. I've been involved in health for years. And diseases don't respect state lines, but we live in a country where we have a system of federalism. And when it comes to opioids, states have different rules and regulations and laws regarding treatment, regarding syringe service programs, as you and I have talked about. I actually put out a report on tobacco cessation earlier this year, and we know that states have different laws there, and more people will die, even in the worst projections, from cigarette smoking in this country than are going to die from coronavirus this year. And so we always are struggling with trying to get information out to guide people that we know will help them be healthy with states' rights. But it's why we put out these 30 days to stop the spread guidelines. These are essentially our national stay-at-home order, and we're working with governors to figure out their needs, their desires.
But Dr. Adams, there's a big difference between opioids and cigarettes, which are something that people decide to use or not to use, and the coronavirus, which people catch. It's not an individual choice. And you know, when President Trump says that he's a wartime president, during World War II, FDR didn't say, well, it's up to each state to decide what to do. He mobilized the nation. Again, why not a national stay-at-home order? The coronavirus doesn't recognize states' rights. So does the federal analogy really work here?
Well, Chris, I know a week ago is forever in coronavirus time, but I would remind people that it was just a week ago when the idea of a federal quarantine for the New York City area was being floated, and Governor Cuomo said that would be like declaring war on the states. The governors are intensely protective of their right, and rightly so, to be able to decide what's best for their states. And we're going to do everything we can as scientists and as physicians, as medical professionals, to help them understand what we think the right thing is for them to do. And so I just want everyone to know that from a national perspective, the Surgeon General is saying no matter where you are, stay at home. At least give us a week or two if you can. We want you to do it for 30 days, but even in those 9 states, give us what you can so we can get this peak and start to come down on the other side.
The fact that the Surgeon General, the purported leading spokesperson on all matters public health in the United States, is still equating coronavirus to opioids or tobacco is a testament to the extent to which Trump has allowed politics to pervade and infect our health and safety. To be clear, there is no equivalency between contracting coronavirus and voluntarily lighting up a cigarette to smoke it. And we've heard these bizarre qualifications before from the Trump administration, wherein officials try and downplay the severity of the virus by likening it to things like the number of drug or automobile deaths. But that doesn't help us now. What we've needed from the beginning, are precisely not these false equivalencies, but rather facts, however unflattering they may be. I get that the Trump administration is trying desperately to present this through rose-colored glasses because Trump's political future depends on pretending that everything is great, but in fact, it is that very strategy of sticking to this rosy outlook that got us into this mess in the first place. The fact is that these constant attempts to frame everything in a positive light were done initially by Trump to gaslight people into thinking the virus didn't even exist, so he'd be able to protect his precious stock market ahead of the next election. And now he's employing the exact same strategy to try and diffuse responsibility for wasting crucial days and weeks in the beginning when he should have been acting. He used that time at the beginning of the outbreak not to take life-saving steps like other countries did, but to downplay the virus. He held rallies where he claimed that Democrats treating the outbreak as a 5-alarm fire was just an attempt to hurt him politically, likening it to impeachment or the Russia investigation. He claimed that our cases would soon be down to 0. He trotted out administration officials like Larry Kudlow to claim that it was completely contained. Trump suggested that we should be able to go to work. He raised the idea of packing the churches for Easter. At every single step of the way, Trump used the bully pulpit of the presidency not to advocate for measures that would keep us safe, like promoting social distancing and issuing stay-at-home orders, but rather to downplay the severity and attack Obama and Democratic governors and the media, to fire the Intel Community Inspector General, to relieve U.S. naval aircraft commanders who sounded the alarms about the virus. In other words, instead of displaying leadership, he prioritized his own politics. Which is why when we have Jerome Adams show up on Sunday shows with a pamphlet from the White House entitled 30 Days to Slow the Spread, it rings especially hollow. First, because he says it's, quote, essentially our national stay-at-home order, only it's not essentially a national stay-at-home order, it's a pamphlet. And second, because Trump has had the opportunity to endorse national stay-at-home orders and opted not to. And still, even now, he refuses to offer even one single harsh word for governors, all of whom are unsurprisingly Republicans, who are still refusing to issue those orders for their own states.
Mr. President, you just said that you want to see as few lives lost as possible in this pandemic. But there are still 8 governors, all Republicans, who have refused to issue these statewide stay-at-home orders. Your own experts, including Dr. Fauci, have said stay-at-home orders are the most effective way to stop the spread of this virus. So why not do everything possible and urge those governors right now to do that?
We have a thing called the Constitution, which I cherish, number one. Number two, those governors, I know every one of them, they're doing a great job. They're being very, very successful in what they're doing. And as you know, I want the governors to be running things. Now, in some cases, we'll supersede. But in this case, it's not.
Do you think they should? I'm not asking if you
I think it depends.
Them to,
it depends on the individual state that you're talking about. But they're doing very well, and they're doing a magnificent job in running their states.
Well, South Carolina has 1,700 cases right now of coronavirus. Utah has 1,255. I mean, are these not states that you think should have those?
No, I think they're doing a great job. Well, that's a very small number relative to population.
It's larger than some states that do have stay-at-home orders.
Okay, it's up to the. If I saw something wrong, if I saw a massive breakout, of which that's not, I would come down very hard. But
isn't the key in this pandemic getting ahead of those numbers, though?
No, not in that case.
We're not even asking for him to mandate some quarantine, just at least have the leadership ability to recommend guidance to these states that have yet to issue any stay-at-home orders to their citizens. The whole point is to get out ahead of the virus, not to wait until it affects as many people as possible before a stay-at-home order becomes unavoidable. It's about preventing even one death, not trying to limit it to only thousands, something that this administration and the Republican Party as a whole still don't seem to be able to understand. So the Trump administration will continue to trot out officials seeking to justify Trump's dangerous responses here. They'll continue to draw false equivalencies and pretend that everything is under control and that they got out ahead of it quickly and that their response is on par with the rest of the world, but our heads are not in the sand. The rest of us can see the numbers from every other country on the planet, and they show full well how our response is the envy of no one. And that is the direct result of a government more concerned with coddling Trump's ego than protecting its own citizens.